When rancher Cole Harding opened his barn door that storm-ravaged night in 1882, he expected to find a lost calf. What he found instead would change everything he thought he knew about family, about love, and about the courage it takes to open your heart again after it has been shattered into 1,000 pieces. But before we begin this journey through the harsh New Mexico territory, where love battles violence and two broken families find unexpected healing, I want to invite you to stay with us until the very end. What happens when Cole makes his choice will surprise you in ways you never expected. And please, comment below with the city you are watching from. I love seeing how far these stories of courage and second chances travel across this beautiful world of ours. Now, let me take you back to that November evening when the sky turned angry and fate came knocking at Cole Harding's door. The New Mexico Territory in 1882 was not kind to the weak. It was a land of jagged mesas and endless sky, where the wind carried both promise and threat in equal measure. The earth cracked under a sun that showed no mercy during the day. And when the rains finally came, they arrived like a biblical reckoning, violent, punishing, transforming dry arroyos into rushing torrents within minutes. Cole Harding knew this land in his bones. He had carved his ranch from its unforgiving soil 15 years ago, when he had been young and full of dreams, when his beloved wife, Sarah, had stood beside him, her hand in his, believing they could build something lasting together. The ranch had prospered in its modest way. Cattle grazed on scrubland that Cole had learned to read like a favorite book. He knew where the secret springs bubbled up from the earth. He knew which valleys held enough grass to sustain a herd through the brutal summers. But prosperity meant nothing when you came home to a silent house every single night. 3 years. 3 long years since consumption had taken Sarah from him. The sickness had stolen her breath a little more each day until that final morning when their daughter Emma had climbed into bed beside her mama and found only stillness. 3 years, and Cole still could not enter their bedroom without feeling the weight of her absence like a stone pressing down on his chest. He had thrown himself into the work after she passed. Work did not require conversation. Work did not ask questions he could not answer. Work did not look at him with Sarah's eyes the way Emma sometimes did, making him feel like he was failing at the most important job he had ever had. Emma was 10 years old now. She had her mother's dark hair and that same stubborn set to her jaw that Sarah had worn like a badge of honor. The girl had grown quiet after her mama died. She had traded her childhood laughter for a careful watchfulness that broke Cole's heart more than tears ever could. They moved around each other like ghosts in their own home, speaking only when necessary, each locked away in their private grief. On this particular November evening, Cole stood on the porch, studying the sky with the practiced eye of a man who had learned to read weather like prophecy. What he saw made his jaw tighten with concern. Cole called through the open door. "Emma, storm is coming. Bad one." She appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on her apron. At 10 years old, she already knew her way around the kitchen better than most grown women. Tragedy had forced that knowledge upon her too soon. Emma asked him, "Should I bring in extra wood?" Cole shook his head. "I will get it. You secure the shutters on the east side. Make sure the latch on the chicken coop is fastened tight." He glanced at her. This serious little girl who should have been playing with dolls instead of preparing for violent storms. Cole added gently, "This one is going to be fierce, sweetheart. The kind that takes roofs if you are not careful." Emma nodded and disappeared back inside without another word. Cole watched the horizon, where clouds were building into towering thunderheads. They looked like mountains made of darkness, menacing and full of fury. The wind had shifted, carrying that peculiar electric scent that always came before violence fell from the sky. By the time he returned to the house after securing the barn and checking on the horses, the first drops were falling. Fat, heavy drops that hit the earth with audible impacts. Each one created a tiny crater in the dust. Within minutes, those drops became a deluge. Rain hammered the roof like 1,000 angry fists. Thunder rolled across the sky in waves that seemed to shake the very foundations of the house Cole had built with his own 2 hands. He had no way of knowing that out there in that terrible darkness, 2 souls were fighting for their lives, a woman and a child, struggling through mud that sucked at their feet with every step, running from something far more dangerous than any storm. And they were heading straight for his door. Cole and Emma ate their supper in near silence that night. The storm raged outside like a wild animal trying to claw its way through the walls. She had made venison stew using her mama's recipe, and biscuits that were only slightly burned on the bottom. Cole ate without tasting. His mind kept wandering to the herd, to the barn roof he had meant to reinforce but never got around to fixing, to all the 100 small vulnerabilities that weather like this could exploit. Emma's voice was small, nearly lost in the thunder. "Papa?" He looked up from his plate. "Yes, sweetheart?" The girl hesitated before asking, "Do you think Mama can see us from heaven?" The question hit Cole like a physical blow to the chest. He set down his spoon carefully, buying himself a moment to think. Cole answered slowly, "I believe she can, sweetheart." Emma continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you think she is disappointed that we are so sad all the time?" Cole's throat tightened painfully. When had he last told his daughter he loved her? When had he last pulled her close the way Sarah used to do every single day? He had been so locked in his own grief that he had forgotten Emma was drowning in hers too. Cole said softly, "Come here." She looked surprised but came around the table without question. Cole pulled her onto his lap, something he had not done in months, and wrapped his arms around her small body. She felt so fragile, so young to be carrying such heavy burdens. Cole spoke with his voice rough from emotion. "Your mama loved you more than anything in this world. She would never be disappointed in you, not ever. And if she could see us right now, I think she would want us to find a way to be happy again." He paused, gathering his courage to speak the truth. "I know I have not been much of a father lately. I am sorry for that, Emma. I am so very sorry." She buried her face against his chest, and he felt her shoulders shake with silent sobs. They sat like that for a long time. The storm raged outside while they held each other in their shared grief. The lamplight flickered and cast dancing shadows on the walls around them. It was nearly 9 o'clock when Cole heard something that made him straighten in his chair. His hand moved instinctively toward the rifle hanging above the mantel. Emma whispered, picking up on his sudden tension, "What is it, Papa?" Cole listened hard. "I thought I heard something. Probably nothing. Just the storm playing tricks." But his instincts told him otherwise. Years in this unforgiving country had taught him to trust those instincts above all else. There it was again, a sound barely audible above the storm's fury, but distinct enough to recognize. A human cry for help. Cole was on his feet immediately, moving toward the door with purpose. He told Emma firmly, "Stay inside." "But Papa," she started to protest. Cole cut her off. "Inside. I mean it." He grabbed his rifle and the oil lamp from the table, then stepped out onto the porch. The rain hit him like a solid wall of water, instantly soaking through his shirt. The lamp's glow barely penetrated the darkness and the driving rain. It created a small circle of light, that seemed pathetically inadequate against the vast black night surrounding him. Cole shouted into the storm, "Hello? Anyone out there?" Lightning split the sky with a blinding flash. In that brief, brilliant moment, Cole saw them. Two figures about 50 yards from the house, struggling through mud that had turned the entire yard into a treacherous swamp. One was clearly an adult, a woman, he realized with growing alarm. She was half dragging, half carrying a smaller form beside her. As thunder crashed overhead with enough force to shake the ground, the woman stumbled and nearly fell. The child cried out in pure terror. Cole did not hesitate for even a second. He set the lamp on the porch rail and plunged into the storm. The mud sucked at his boots with every step, and the rain was so heavy it felt like trying to move through a waterfall. Cole shouted over the roaring wind, "Hold on! I am coming to help you!" When he reached them, he immediately lifted the child into his arms. The girl was rigid with fear. Her thin dress was soaked completely through, and she was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Cole shouted to the woman, "Can you walk?" She nodded, but he could see she was swaying on her feet, clearly at the end of her strength, running on nothing but sheer desperation. He shifted the child to one arm and grabbed the woman's elbow with his free hand. Then he practically dragged them both toward the house through the sucking mud. Emma had disobeyed him, of course. She stood in the open doorway, holding another lamp high to guide them home through the darkness. Cole thought to himself, with a mixture of frustration and pride, "Smart girl, Sarah's daughter through and through." They stumbled up onto the porch, and Cole carried the child inside. Water streamed off all three of them, pooling on the floor that Emma kept so carefully clean. But Cole could not care less about that right now, because in the lamplight he got his first good look at his unexpected visitors, and what he saw made his blood run cold with barely suppressed anger. The woman standing in Cole's kitchen was young, probably not yet 30 years old. She had dark blonde hair plastered to her skull from the rain, and wide, frightened eyes that darted around the room like a trapped animal seeking escape routes. She was thin in a way that spoke of hunger rather than fashion. Her dress beneath all the mud and rain was threadbare and patched in multiple places. But it was the bruises that caught Cole's attention and held it. A purple and yellow contusion spread across her left cheek like a thundercloud. When she moved, she favored her right side in a way that suggested damaged ribs beneath her dress. Her lower lip was split and barely healed. The child was in even worse condition. Pale and shaking uncontrollably, she clung to the woman's mud-soaked skirt with both small hands. Her eyes were huge in her thin face. She could not have weighed more than 40 pounds, and on her arms Cole could see the telltale signs of rough handling. Fingerprint bruises like someone had grabbed her too hard and too often. Emma stood frozen near the table, staring at the visitors with wide eyes full of concern. Cole spoke gently to his daughter. "Emma, get some blankets and heat up what is left of the stew." His daughter nodded quickly and hurried toward the bedroom to fetch what was needed. The woman remained standing in a puddle of rainwater, her entire body tense as a coiled spring, ready to bolt at the first sign of danger. The woman spoke, her voice cracking with exhaustion and fear. "I am sorry. I am so sorry to intrude like this. I did not know where else to go. I just need—" Her words trailed off as emotion overwhelmed her. Cole kept his voice calm and steady. "You are not going anywhere in this storm, and you are hurt. I can see that plain as day." The woman protested weakly. "I am fine, really." It was clearly a lie. The way she held herself, the paleness of her face beneath those terrible bruises. She was anything but fine. Cole spoke with quiet firmness. "Ma'am, I am not going to hurt you, and I am not going to turn you out into a storm that could kill you both. Now, are you going to tell me your name, or am I going to keep calling you ma'am all night?" She studied him for a long moment, clearly weighing her options, measuring the risk of honesty against the risk of continued flight into the deadly storm. Finally, she made her decision. "My name is Lydia Marsh, and this is my daughter Rose." Cole nodded once. "Cole Harding, that girl who just ran off is my daughter Emma." He gestured toward the fireplace, where warmth radiated into the room. "You will catch your death standing there in wet clothes. Emma is bringing blankets. You and Rose can change behind that screen over there. Get yourselves warm by the fire." Lydia's eyes filled with tears. Not tears of sadness, Cole realized, but tears of overwhelming relief, like she had been holding her breath for weeks and could finally exhale. Lydia whispered through her tears, "Thank you. Thank you so much. I promise we will not be any trouble. We just need... Cole interrupted her gently. "You need to get warm and dry. Your daughter needs food in her belly. We will figure out everything else tomorrow." He paused, then asked the question he already knew the answer to. "Is someone following you?" The raw fear that flashed across Lydia's face was answer enough. Her whole body went rigid, and she instinctively pulled Rose closer to her side. Cole nodded slowly. "I see. Well, they will not find you tonight. No one could track anything in weather like this. You are safe here." Emma returned with an armful of blankets. Cole noticed with a sharp pang of emotion that she also carried one of Sarah's old dresses. She must have retrieved it from the trunk in his bedroom. The trunk where he had packed away Sarah's things that first terrible week after her death. He had been unable to look at them, but also unable to give them away. Emma offered the items to Lydia shyly. "Here. The dress was my mama's." She looked at Cole with uncertain eyes. "Papa, is it okay?" Cole's throat tightened painfully, but he managed to nod. "It is okay, sweetheart. Your mama would want to help." Lydia took the dress with trembling hands, her fingers stroking the fabric with something like reverence. Lydia asked softly, "Your mother, is she?" Emma answered simply, without self-pity. "She died 3 years ago, but she was kind, like you seem to be." Lydia's voice broke with emotion. "Oh, sweetheart, I am so sorry." Emma reached out and took Rose's small hand gently. "Come on, let us get you out of those wet clothes." Rose looked up at her mother with questioning eyes. Lydia nodded encouragingly, giving her daughter permission to trust this stranger. Emma kept up a cheerful stream of chatter as she led Rose toward the changing screen. "I am 10 years old." "How old are you?" Rose whispered her first words since entering the house. It was so quiet Cole almost missed it. "6?" Emma responded with warmth in her voice. "6? I remember being 6. That is a wonderful age. Do you like horses?" As Emma's gentle voice continued to coax Rose out of her shell, Cole caught the look on Lydia's face. Gratitude mixed with something that might have been wonder, as if simple human kindness was something she had forgotten existed in this harsh world. Later, after both women and girls had changed into dry clothes and eaten their fill of reheated stew, Cole sat across from Lydia at the kitchen table. The girls had fallen asleep together in Emma's bed, Rose's nightmares held at bay by the warmth of newfound friendship. Cole asked the question that had been burning in his mind. "How long have you been running?" Lydia wrapped her hands around a cup of hot coffee, seeking its warmth. 3 weeks. We went first to Albuquerque, but I heard he was asking around about us there. Then to Socorro, but same thing. Every time I think we are safe, someone recognizes us. Someone asks questions. Cole leaned forward slightly. "Who is he, Lydia? Who are you running from?" Lydia was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was flat and matter-of-fact, the voice of someone who had learned to distance herself from her own pain just to survive. Lydia began her story. "His name is Harlan Reeves. He operates out of Santa Fe, runs a freight business that everyone suspects is a front for worse things, but no one has ever been able to prove it." She took a shaky breath before continuing. 7 years ago, my father died. He had gambling debts I did not know about. Men came to collect, and when there was no money to give them, they took the ranch. I was 18 years old, alone, scared out of my mind. That is when Harlan found me. Cole listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each word she spoke. Lydia continued. "He presented himself as a benefactor, a successful businessman who could provide security to a frightened young woman. I was desperate and foolish. The wedding was quick and private, which should have been my first warning sign." Her voice turned bitter. "By the time I realized what he truly was, it was too late. I was trapped. And the preacher who married us, he was no preacher at all. Just one of Harlan's men, dressed up in costume. The marriage was never legal, but I did not learn that until years later." Cole's jaw tightened with barely controlled anger. The bruises. "He does that to you?" Lydia nodded slowly. "And worse. Rose came along in the 2nd year. I thought maybe a child would change him, make him softer. Another foolish hope. If anything, having a daughter made things worse. He saw her as his property, something to mold and shape into whatever he wanted." She met Cole's eyes directly. 3 weeks ago, I overheard Harlan talking to one of his associates. They were discussing Rose, about how she was getting to an age where she could be useful to them. Lydia's voice cracked with emotion. The way they talked about my daughter, the things they implied they wanted to do, I knew right then that if I did not get her away immediately, I might not get another chance. So that night, I took what little money I had managed to hide over the years. I packed what we could carry, and we ran. Cole sat back in his chair, processing everything she had told him. His hands had curled into fists without his realizing it. Cole spoke with cold determination in his voice. "He is not going to find you here. And even if he does, he is not taking you back. Not you, and certainly not that little girl." Lydia looked at him with desperate hope mixed with fear. "You do not understand what you are saying. Harlan is dangerous. He has killed men before. He has connections everywhere. Friends who owe him favors or fear what he might do to them." Cole met her gaze steadily. "I have faced down rustlers, hostile tribes, drought and flood, and every hardship this territory can throw at a man. I am not afraid of your husband." "He is not my husband. The marriage was never legal." Cole nodded once. "Good. Then he has no claim on you or Rose. None at all." Lydia stared at him for a long moment, tears streaming down her bruised face. "Why are you doing this? You do not even know us." "Why would you risk anything for strangers who showed up at your door in a storm?" Cole was quiet for a moment, thinking about the silent house, about Emma's sad eyes, about 3 years of merely existing instead of truly living. Finally, he answered, because it is the right thing to do, and because maybe, just maybe, helping you might help us too. Outside, the storm continued its violent symphony, but inside the sturdy walls of Cole Harding's ranch house, something had shifted. A door had opened that could never be closed again, and none of them would ever be the same. Dawn broke clear and cold over the ranch the next morning. The storm had spent its fury some time in the small hours, leaving behind a world washed clean and sparkling under the rising sun. Cole had dozed in his chair by the fire all night. He woke every hour or so to add wood to the flames and listen for sounds that did not belong. But the night had remained quiet save for the settling creaks of the house and the distant lowing of cattle finding their way back from shelter. He was standing at the window watching the sun lift above the mesas when he heard soft footsteps behind him. Lydia's voice was barely above a whisper. "I am sorry. I did not mean to disturb you." Cole turned to face her. She stood in the doorway wearing the same borrowed dress from the night before, Sarah's blue calico. Her hair hung loose around her shoulders, still damp from washing. In the morning light, the bruises on her face looked even worse. The purple was spreading into sickly yellows and greens, but her eyes were clearer than they had been last night, less wild with fear. Cole said simply, "You are not disturbing anything. Coffee is almost ready." Lydia moved toward the kitchen with purpose. "I should start breakfast. Please, let me help. I meant what I said last night. I will not be a burden." Cole studied her for a moment, then nodded. "All right. There are eggs in the basket by the door, bacon in the larder, flour and lard for biscuits, if you are inclined." Relief flooded her face, and she moved past him with renewed energy. Her hands reached for the apron hanging on its hook with familiar ease. As she tied it around her thin waist, Cole noticed how naturally she moved in the kitchen. Her hands knew their work without hesitation. This was not a woman playing at domesticity. This was someone who had cooked 1,000 meals before. They worked in companionable silence. Cole poured coffee while Lydia cracked eggs into a bowl with practiced efficiency. The domesticity of it struck him deeply. How normal it felt. How right it seemed to have someone else moving through this kitchen that had been his solitary domain for 3 long years. Lydia broke the silence with a question. "How long were you married? To your wife, I mean? I hope that is not too forward of me to ask." Cole answered without hesitation. 12 years. Met her in Kansas when I was barely more than a boy. Brought her out here when this ranch was nothing but sagebrush and dreams. She was 17 years old. Brave as any man I have ever known to agree to come out to this harsh territory. Lydia spoke softly. "She must have loved you very much." Cole's voice grew rough with emotion. "I hope she did. I know I loved her enough for both of us." The bedroom door opened before he could say more. Emma emerged first, followed closely by Rose. The little girl had been dressed in one of Emma's old nightgowns, and her tangled hair had been carefully braided. She still looked pale and frightened, but there was something different in her eyes this morning, a tiny spark of cautious hope. Rose ran to her mother, who scooped her up despite her injured ribs. Rose said, with wonder in her small voice, "Mama, Emma told me stories about horses and mountains and a fox who lives in the canyon." Emma settled herself at the table. "That is a true story. The fox comes around sometimes looking for scraps. Mama used to leave bits of food out for him. Papa says I should not because it makes wild things dependent. But I still do it sometimes anyway." Cole caught Lydia's eye and saw the warmth there, the gratitude for his daughter's simple kindness. Cole admitted with a small smile, "I say a lot of things. Emma has got her own mind about most of them." Breakfast was a fuller affair than Cole was accustomed to. The four of them sat around the table together, and though Rose remained mostly silent, Cole noticed how she watched Emma with something approaching adoration. The little girl mimicked the older one's movements when reaching for her cup, copying everything Emma did. After the meal was finished, Lydia asked the question Cole had been expecting. "What needs doing today? On the ranch, I mean." Cole raised an eyebrow. "You serious about wanting to help?" Lydia nodded firmly. "Completely serious. I grew up on a ranch in Texas before my father died, and circumstances changed. I know horses. I know cattle. I know how to mend fence and rope a steer if need be. I am stronger than I look." Rose spoke up unexpectedly, pride evident in her small voice. "Mama can do anything. She fixed Mr. Henderson's wagon wheel once, all by herself." Cole smiled at the girl's defense of her mother. "Did she now? Well, if that is the case, I could use help checking the herd. Storm like last night, some might have gotten themselves into trouble. And there is fence down on the east section that needs mending." Lydia stood immediately. "I will come with you." Rose's voice trembled with sudden fear. "Mama, what about me?" Emma announced before anyone else could speak. "You will stay here with me. We will do the inside chores, gathering eggs, sweeping the floors, maybe some baking if Papa has sugar left. Then I will show you the barn, and you can meet Judge properly. That is Papa's horse. Would you like that?" Rose looked to her mother for permission, fear and hope warring in her eyes. Lydia knelt down and took her daughter's small hands. "Would you be all right with that, sweetheart? You would be safe here with Emma. I promise." She swallowed hard before adding, "I will come back. I promise you that. I will be with Mr. Harding the whole time, and we will not go far. If you need me, just ring the bell on the porch and we will hear it." Rose nodded slowly, and Emma took her hand with a gentleness that made Cole's chest ache. His daughter had been alone for so long. She had carried her grief in solitude because he had not known how to reach her. Now, watching her with this frightened child, he saw Sarah's compassion shining through clearly. An hour later, Cole and Lydia rode out toward the eastern pastures. The morning sun climbed higher in a sky scrubbed clean by the storm. Cole had given Lydia his older saddle horse, a steady mare named Belle. He watched with approval as she saddled the horse herself with capable hands, checking the cinch with practiced efficiency. They rode in comfortable silence for a while. The only sounds were the creak of leather and the soft thud of hooves on damp earth. The land stretched around them in its stark beauty. Red rock mesas rose like ancient fortresses. Valleys held grass that grew thick in secret places. The distant purple smudge of mountains lined the horizon. Lydia finally spoke. "It is beautiful out here. Harsh, but beautiful. Like it does not apologize for what it is." Cole agreed with her assessment. "No apologies out here. The land demands respect, not permission." Sarah loved it. She used to say it made her feel both small and infinite at the same time. Lydia nodded thoughtfully. "I understand that feeling. In Texas, before my father died, I used to ride out at dawn just to watch the light change. It made me feel like I was part of something bigger than myself, bigger than all my problems, They reached the eastern fence line where Cole could see the storm damage clearly. A large cottonwood branch had fallen across 3 sections of fence, snapping the posts clean through. They dismounted and worked side by side for the next 2 hours. Cole cut away the damaged wire while Lydia gathered the broken posts. He could see her evaluating the damage with sharp, knowing eyes. Lydia pointed to the rotted wood. "You will need new posts here. These are rotted at the base anyway. The storm just finished what time it already started, and the wire should be replaced entirely on this whole section. It is stretched too thin, weakened beyond repair." Cole looked at her with new respect. "You really do know ranch work." Lydia met his gaze steadily. "I told you I did. My father might have been a poor businessman, but he knew this land. He taught me everything he could. How to read the earth, understand where water flows, know when cattle are sickening before it shows outwardly. I loved that work. Loved being useful and capable." Her voice turned bitter. "With Harlan, I was not allowed to be anything but ornamental. He wanted a possession to show off, not a partner to work beside." Cole found himself appreciating not just Lydia's knowledge, but her quiet competence, the way she anticipated what needed doing without being told. There was something restful about her presence, something that did not demand conversation but welcomed it when it came naturally. As they worked, Cole felt something in his chest begin to loosen. Some tight knot he had been carrying for 3 years started to unravel, thread by thread. When they rode back toward the ranch house that afternoon, both of them were tired but satisfied with the work accomplished. As the house came into view, they could see Emma and Rose in the garden. Rose's laughter rang out clear and bright as Emma showed her how to scatter corn for the chickens. Rose called out with pure joy in her voice, "Mama, look! The chickens eat right from my hand." Lydia's eyes filled with tears at the sight, at the sound of laughter she had not heard from her daughter in far too long. Cole watched the scene and felt his heart crack open just a little bit more. This was what his house had been missing. This was what he and Emma had needed without even knowing it. Life, laughter, hope. And standing there in the afternoon sunshine, watching 2 broken families begin to heal together, Cole Harding started to wonder if maybe fate had sent that storm for a reason after all. The days that followed settled into a comfortable rhythm that surprised everyone. Lydia rose before dawn each morning to help with breakfast, then worked alongside Cole on the ranch while Emma watched over Rose. She taught the younger girl about the animals and the land, their friendship deepening with each passing hour. Lydia proved herself capable beyond question. She could rope, ride, and mend fence as well as any hand Cole had ever hired. More than that, she understood the work in a way that went beyond simple competence. She knew when a cow was about to calve just by watching its movements. She could read weather signs in the clouds hours before storms arrived. She had an instinct for finding water that bordered on the miraculous. On the 3rd day, she pointed to a narrow cleft in the rocks to the north. "There is a spring up in that canyon. I would stake money on it. See how the vegetation changes right there? That green stripe means water close to the surface." Cole had ridden past that canyon 100 times without noticing what she saw immediately. If you are right, that would be valuable knowledge for the summer months when water gets scarce. Lydia said with quiet confidence, "I am right." Cole believed her without question. In the evenings, the 4 of them gathered around the table for supper, meals that grew more elaborate as Lydia learned the contents of the larder and what she could coax from the small vegetable garden. Conversation flowed easier each night. Rose gradually came out of her shell, her nightmares growing less frequent. Emma bloomed under the attention of having another girl to talk to, someone who looked up to her and needed her guidance. One evening, nearly a week after that fateful storm, Emma asked the question Cole had been dreading. Emma said, with hope shining in her eyes, "Papa, can they stay? Can Lydia and Rose stay with us forever?" The table went silent. Cole saw the desperate hope in his daughter's expression. He saw the fear in Lydia's eyes as she waited for his answer. Rose had stopped eating entirely, her small hands clutching her fork like a lifeline. Cole began carefully. "Emma, sweetheart, it is not that simple," Emma demanded. "Why not? They work hard. They help with everything around here. And Rose is my friend. My best friend. Why cannot they stay?" Cole sighed heavily. "Because people will talk. A widowed man with a woman and child living in his house like this. It is not considered proper. People in town already gossip about the smallest things. This would give them real ammunition against us." Emma shot back with fire in her voice. "I do not care what people say," Cole replied gently. "You should care. Your reputation matters, sweetheart. Your future depends on it. Your mother would want you to understand that." Emma interrupted him firmly. "Mama would want us to help people who need help. You know she would. She always said home was not about walls and roofs. It was about who you welcomed inside, about who you chose to love." Cole felt the truth of those words like a physical blow. Sarah had said exactly that many times over the years. She had believed it with her whole heart. Lydia spoke quietly, trying to ease the tension. "Mr. Harding, Cole, I know this is complicated. I never meant to impose for this long. Rose and I can move out to the barn properly, or we can find somewhere else to go. I do not want to cause problems for your family." Rose's voice was sharp with panic. "No, Mama, no. I do not want to go. Please. I like it here. I like Emma and Mr. Harding and the chickens and Belle and everything. Please do not make us leave." Tears streamed down the little girl's face, and Emma immediately moved to put an arm around her shoulders protectively. Cole felt the weight of 3 pairs of eyes on him, all waiting for his decision, all hoping, all afraid. He thought about the past week, about how the house had come alive again with voices and laughter, about how Emma had transformed back into the child she had been before Sarah died. He thought about Lydia's capable hands and quiet strength, about Rose's tentative smiles and growing confidence. But he also thought about Harlan Reeves, about the danger that might still be coming, about the gossip that could ruin Emma's future prospects, about the complexity of what he was considering. Cole said finally, "Let me think on it. This is not a decision to make lightly. There are consequences either way." That night, after the girls had gone to bed, Cole found Lydia on the porch. She was staring out at the star-scattered sky, her arms wrapped around herself against the cold night air. He brought 2 cups of coffee and settled into the chair beside her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Lydia broke the silence first. "I am sorry about earlier. I did not mean for things to become so complicated. We should leave, find somewhere else to go before we cause you more trouble." Cole asked bluntly, "Where would you go? Where would be safer than here? Where Rose would not be terrified every moment? Where you would not have to sleep with one eye open waiting for him to find you?" Lydia admitted quietly, "I do not know. But I cannot ask you to risk everything for us. Cole turned to face her directly. What do you want, Lydia? Not what you think you should want, not what you think is proper or right. What do you actually want? She was quiet for a long moment, her hands wrapped around the warm cup. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Lydia confessed, I want to stay. God help me, Cole. I want to stay so badly it frightens me. I want Rose to keep laughing the way she has been this week. I want to wake up in the morning without fear gnawing at my insides. I want to work beside you and feel useful and capable again. I want things I have no right to want. Cole nodded slowly. And if I said you could stay, what then? She looked at him with hope and fear warring in her expression. You would be taking on more than you know. Harlan will not give up. He will come eventually. He always does. Cole spoke with cold certainty. Let him come. I faced down rustlers and hostile tribes and drought and every hardship this territory can throw at a man. I am not afraid of your husband. Lydia said urgently, He is not my husband, and you should be afraid. He has killed people before. He will not hesitate to kill again. Cole replied steadily, Neither will I. Not to protect the people under my roof. The words hung between them heavy with meaning. Cole took a deep breath before continuing. Cole said carefully, I have been thinking about this situation, about how to make it work, about how to protect you and Rose properly, legally. There is a way around the gossip and the impropriety, a way that would give you real protection under the law. Lydia went very still. What are you suggesting? Cole spoke the word that would change everything. Marriage. The silence that followed seemed to stretch for eternity. Cole continued, A practical arrangement, nothing more than that. You and Rose would have a home and protection and my name. Emma would have companionship. The ranch would have capable help. Separate rooms. No expectations beyond partnership. Just a legal arrangement that benefits everyone involved. Lydia repeated slowly, as if testing the word, A marriage of convenience. Cole nodded. Exactly. Whatever claim Harlan thinks he has on you would be void. You would be my wife. Rose would be my daughter in the eyes of the law. He could not touch either of you. Lydia studied him in the starlight, her expression unreadable. That is very generous of you. But Cole, you do not know me. Not really. We have known each other barely a week. Cole said simply, I know you are brave. I know you are a good mother who would do anything for her child. I know you work hard and do not complain. I know my daughter has not smiled like she has this week in 3 long years. He paused before adding, And I know what it is like to be alone, to feel like you are just going through the motions, surviving instead of living. Maybe we could help each other with that. Lydia's voice trembled. You would do this? Really? Take on someone else's problems? Risk everything you have built here? Cole gestured around them. This ranch, this house, it has been empty of life for too long. Maybe this is what Sarah would want. Maybe this is what we all need. He met her eyes directly. I am not offering romance, Lydia. I do not know if I have that left in me anymore. But I am offering partnership, protection, a home. If that is enough for you, Lydia whispered through tears, it is more than enough. It is more than I ever dared hope for. She took a shaky breath. But are you sure, truly sure about this? Cole thought about Emma's laughter, about the way the house felt alive again, about Lydia's quiet strength and Rose's gradual healing. He thought about Sarah and what she would say if she could see them now. Somehow, he knew she would approve. Cole answered with certainty, "I am sure. The question is, are you?" Lydia looked out at the dark land stretching endlessly before them, at the stars wheeling overhead in their ancient patterns. Then she turned back to Cole with determination mixed with hope shining in her eyes. Lydia spoke clearly. "Yes, yes, I am." They sat together in the darkness, two broken people agreeing to build something new from their separate, shattered pieces. And somewhere in the house behind them, two little girls slept peacefully, not knowing that tomorrow would bring news that would change all of their lives forever. Cole rode into town at first light the next morning, leaving Lydia to manage the ranch with Emma and Rose. The decision had been made, and there was no sense delaying what needed doing. The sooner they made it legal, the sooner Lydia and Rose would have real protection under the law. The town of Redemption sat in a valley between two mesas, a collection of adobe and timber buildings that served the scattered ranches and homesteads for 50 miles in any direction. Cole knew every face here. He had done business with most of them, and he knew exactly how fast news traveled through these dusty streets. His first stop was the sheriff's office, a small building near the center of town where Sheriff Jack Dalton sat behind his desk reviewing wanted posters with a cup of cold coffee beside him. Dalton's weathered face broke into a smile when Cole entered. "Cole Harding! Have not seen you in weeks. Thought maybe you had finally been carried off by one of those dust storms you are always predicting." Cole shook the offered hand firmly. "Need to talk to you, Jack, privately. It is important." The sheriff's expression shifted immediately, his lawman's instincts kicking in. He gestured to a chair and closed the door behind them. Dalton asked, "What is the trouble?" Cole explained everything. The storm, Lydia and Rose, the dangerous man hunting them, the plan to protect them through marriage. Dalton listened without interrupting. His expression grew grimmer with each detail Cole revealed. When Cole finished, Dalton leaned back in his chair heavily. "Harlan Reeves, out of Santa Fe. I know the name. Mean son of a gun with connections to some rough characters. Runs a freight business that everyone suspects is dirty, but nobody has ever been able to prove it. Word is, he has killed at least 3 men. But witnesses have a way of disappearing when it comes time to testify against him." Cole's jaw tightened. "What is his legal standing regarding Lydia and the child?" Dalton spoke carefully. "If he can prove marriage, if he shows up with documentation claiming she is his wife and the child is his, my hands would be tied. I would have no choice but to turn them over. That is the law." Cole leaned forward. The marriage was not legal. The preacher was one of Reeves's own men in disguise. Dalton asked pointedly, "Can she prove that?" Cole's silence was answer enough. The sheriff continued, "Then you see the problem. If Reeves shows up with documents, even forged ones, and she has no proof they are fake, any judge would have to consider his claim seriously." Cole spoke with determination. What if she was not his wife anymore? What if she was married to someone else? Dalton studied Cole for a long moment, understanding dawning in his eyes. "You are thinking of marrying her yourself, making her a Harding." Cole nodded. "That is exactly what I am thinking." The sheriff stood and paced to the window. "Cole, you have known this woman a week, maybe less. That is hardly enough time to make a decision this significant." Cole replied steadily, "It does not change what needs doing. She needs protection. legal protection, and I can provide that. Dalton turned back to face him. It is a risk. If Reeves comes here claiming fraud, claiming you conspired to steal his wife, it could get ugly. Men like him do not accept losing gracefully. He is not just mean, Cole. He is connected. He has money, and he has men who will do whatever he pays them to do. Cole met his friend's gaze without flinching. I am not afraid of Harlan Reeves. Dalton sighed heavily. Maybe you should be. He was quiet for a moment before continuing. But I will tell you this. If you marry that woman legally, and if Reeves shows up making threats, I will back you completely. The law would be on your side. That marriage would trump whatever claim he thinks he has. Cole nodded gratefully. That is all I am asking, Dalton said. Judge Morrison is in town today. He could do the ceremony this afternoon. If you are truly serious about this, you will need witnesses. I will stand for you if you want. Cole replied, I would appreciate that, Jack. The sheriff's expression softened. Are you sure about this? You are taking on more than just a wife and child. You are making an enemy of a very dangerous man. Cole thought about Emma's smile, about Rose's laughter, about Lydia's quiet strength and the life she had brought back to his empty house. Cole answered with certainty, I am sure some things are worth the risk. The wedding ceremony took place at 4 o'clock that afternoon in Judge Morrison's parlor. A simple affair witnessed by Sheriff Dalton and the judge's wife, Martha. Cole had purchased a simple gold band from the general store. Lydia wore Sarah's blue calico dress, cleaned and mended, her hair pinned up carefully. Emma and Rose stood beside them, both wearing their best dresses. Their faces glowed with happiness that almost made Cole forget this was supposed to be merely a practical arrangement. Judge Morrison was a heavy-set man with kind eyes who had known Cole for years. He had presided over Cole and Sarah's wedding 12 years ago. There was understanding in his expression as he opened his Bible and began. The judge intoned, Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony. The vows were simple, traditional. Cole spoke them clearly, meaning every word, even if romance was not their purpose. Lydia's voice trembled slightly, but held steady. When the judge said, You may kiss the bride, Cole hesitated. Lydia did too. Both remembered this was supposed to be practical. Nothing more. But Emma and Rose were watching with such hopeful expressions that Cole leaned in and pressed a chaste kiss to Lydia's cheek. She returned it, her hand briefly touching his. The marriage certificate was signed and witnessed, legal proof that Lydia Marsh was now Lydia Harding, that Rose was now his stepdaughter, that Harlan Reeves had no claim on either of them. They were walking back to the wagon when Sheriff Dalton caught Cole's arm. Dalton spoke quietly. Word of advice. Get them home and stay alert. If Reeves has people watching for them, news of this marriage will reach him fast. He will not take it well. Cole replied grimly. I am counting on that. Better he comes at me directly than keeps hunting him in the shadows. The ride back to the ranch should have been peaceful. The sun was setting, painting the mesas in shades of crimson and gold. Emma and Rose sat in the wagon bed, whispering and giggling together about what the future might hold. But as the ranch house came into view, Cole felt his stomach drop. The front door stood open, though he distinctly remembered closing it. And in the yard, 3 horses were tied to the porch rail, horses that did not belong there. Cole spoke quietly to Lydia. Take the girls to the barn. Stay there. until I come for you." Lydia's face went pale. "Cole, what is happening?" Cole replied firmly. "Now. Go now." She did not argue. She gathered Rose while Emma helped her down from the wagon. Cole watched them hurry toward the barn, then turned his attention to the house. His hand was steady on the rifle as he approached the porch. A voice called out from the doorway, "No need for that, friend." A man stepped into view, tall and lean, with cold eyes and a smile that did not reach them. He held his hands up to show they were empty, but Cole was not fooled. The stranger continued, "We are not here for trouble, just looking for something that belongs to our associate." Cole kept the rifle level. "Then you are trespassing on my property. You have got about 10 seconds to explain yourself before I start shooting." 2 more men emerged from the house, flanking the first. All 3 wore guns. All 3 had the look of men who knew how to use them. The leader spoke calmly. "Name is Fletcher. We work for Harlan Reeves. He is missing something. A woman and a little girl. Blonde woman, pretty enough. Child about 6 years old. Heard tell they might have passed through this area." Cole lied smoothly. "Have not seen anyone matching that description." Fletcher's smile widened into something cruel. "That is funny, because we just talked to a shopkeeper in town who said you got married today to a woman matching that exact description, with a little girl standing right beside her." Cole's grip tightened on the rifle. "My wife is none of your business," Fletcher replied with cold amusement. "Oh, but she is. See, she belongs to Mr. Reeves. That makes her very much our business." Cole spoke with barely controlled fury. "She does not belong to anyone but herself. And now she is legally married to me, which means whatever claim Reeves thinks he has is void." Fletcher shook his head slowly. "The law might see it that way, but Mr. Reeves sees it differently. He sees a woman who stole from him, who ran out on a legal marriage, who took his child." The man's voice turned hard. "He wants what is his, and he always gets what he wants." Cole replied with equal steel, "Then he can take it up with the sheriff. Now get off my land." Fletcher studied him for a long moment. Then he laughed. A cold, humorless sound. Fletcher said, "You are a brave man, Harding. Stupid, but brave. Mr. Reeves appreciates bravery, makes it more satisfying when he breaks it." The 3 men mounted their horses, but Fletcher paused before riding out. Fletcher delivered his final warning. He will come for them himself soon, and when he does, that rifle will not be enough. Nothing will be enough. You should have stayed out of this. They rode off into the gathering darkness. Cole stood watching until they disappeared completely from view. Only then did he lower the rifle. His hands were shaking slightly from the adrenaline coursing through his body. This was not over. It was only just beginning, and when Harlan Reeves came, Cole would have to be ready. Cole found Lydia in the barn, standing just inside the door, with Rose clutched against her side and Emma gripping her other hand. All 3 faces were pale with fear. Cole said firmly, "They are gone for now." Lydia whispered, "But they will be back. Harlan will come himself. I know him. He will never let this go." Her voice broke with emotion. "I should leave. I should take Rose and go right now, before he hurts you, before he hurts Emma. This is my fault. All of this is my fault." Cole set the rifle aside and took her shoulders gently. "You are not going anywhere. You are my wife now, Lydia. You and Rose are under my protection. Running will not solve anything." He would just keep hunting you until you had nowhere left to go." Lydia spoke urgently. "But he will hurt you." "He will hurt, Emma. You do not understand what you are dealing with." Cole replied with steel in his voice. "Then help me understand. Tell me everything about Harlan Reeves, his habits, his weaknesses, how he thinks. If we are going to fight him, I need to know exactly what we are facing." They spent the evening preparing for what was coming. Cole sent Emma to the Johnson Ranch 5 miles south, despite her furious protests. Mrs. Johnson was a tough frontier woman who had raised 6 sons and was not afraid of trouble. Cole knew Emma would be safe there. Rose wanted to go with her new sister, but Lydia held firm. She would not be separated from her daughter again. Not now. Not when danger was so close. After Emma left, riding Belle with tears streaming down her face, but understanding the necessity, Cole and Lydia turned the ranch house into a fortress. They shuttered all the windows. They moved furniture to create barriers near the doors. They loaded every weapon Cole owned. They positioned supplies where they could be reached quickly if needed. Lydia spoke as they worked. "He will come with men. At least 4 or 5, maybe more. Harlan likes to overwhelm his enemies, uses numbers to intimidate. But he is not stupid. He will wait until he thinks he has every advantage." Cole asked, "What kind of advantage?" Lydia continued, "He will have someone watching the house, learning your routines, waiting until you are vulnerable, maybe catch you away from home, or attack at night when everyone is sleeping." She paused before adding, "And he will use Rose against me. He knows I will do anything to protect her. Anything at all." Cole nodded grimly. "That is why she stays in the house at all times, in the most secure room we have. And that is why you stay armed." He handed her a Colt revolver. "You know how to use this?" Lydia checked the cylinder with practiced ease. Her hands were steady and sure. "My father taught me when I was 12 years old. Said every woman should know how to protect herself." Cole said, "Good, 'cause I need to know you can fight if it comes to that." Lydia met his eyes directly. "I can fight. But Cole, I need you to understand something. I cannot promise I will not break if he threatens Rose directly. I cannot promise I will be strong." Cole spoke with quiet certainty. "You will not have to. We will keep her safe. Whatever happens, Rose stays safe. I give you my word on that." They took turns keeping watch that night, one sleeping while the other sat by the window with a rifle ready. Cole took the first shift, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. Around midnight, Lydia emerged from the bedroom wrapped in a shawl. She could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Harlan's face, heard his voice promising retribution. She settled into the chair beside Cole. For a long moment, neither spoke. They just sat together in the darkness, watching and waiting. Finally, Lydia broke the silence. "Why are you doing this? Really doing this, Cole? It is more than just helping strangers. You could have sent us to the law. Let the authorities handle everything. Instead, you married me, made yourself a target. Why?" Cole was quiet for a moment, thinking carefully about his answer. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful and honest. Cole said, "When Sarah died, something in me died too. I kept going through the motions, working the ranch, raising Emma, but I was just existing, not really living. The house was silent, Emma was silent, I was silent. We were like ghosts, haunting our own home." He turned to look at Lydia directly. Then you showed up in that storm. And suddenly, the house was not silent anymore. Emma was laughing again. I was talking again. Thinking about something other than just surviving one more day, he continued. You and Rose reminded me what it felt like to have a home instead of just a house. That is worth fighting for. That is worth everything. Lydia asked softly, is that not a reason to protect what you have? To stay safe? Cole shook his head. What is life worth if you are not willing to risk it for something that matters? I spent 3 years playing it safe, locking myself away from anything that might hurt me. And you know what happened? It hurt anyway. The loneliness was its own kind of pain. Watching Emma fade away broke my heart every single day. He met her eyes. At least this way, if I hurt, it is for a good reason, for people who matter. Lydia reached out and took his hand. They sat like that in the darkness, two people who had been broken by life, holding on to each other against what was coming. 3 days passed in tense waiting. Cole stayed close to the house at all times, venturing out only for essential chores and always carrying his rifle. Lydia kept Rose inside, teaching her letters and numbers to keep the child occupied, but Rose sensed the fear surrounding her and grew quiet again. Her brief bloom of happiness wilted under the weight of what was coming. On the 4th morning, Sheriff Dalton rode up with news that made Cole's blood run cold. Dalton spoke grimly. Harlan Reeves is in town. Showed up yesterday with 8 men, all armed to the teeth. He has been asking questions everywhere, making threats to anyone who will listen. Cole replied, then let him come out here and face me directly. Dalton shook his head. He is not doing it that way. He filed a complaint with Judge Morrison, claims you kidnapped his wife and child. He has documents, marriage certificate, birth records for Rose. They look legitimate, Cole. Professional. Lydia spoke urgently. They are forgeries. All of them. Dalton sighed. Maybe so, but they are good forgeries. Without proof, they are fake. The judge has no choice but to consider them seriously. Reeves is demanding the law force you to return Lydia and Rose to his custody. Cole asked, what happens now? Dalton explained. Judge Morrison is stalling as best he can. He knows something is wrong here. But legally, if those documents hold up, Reeves has a claim. The judge wants everyone to come into town tomorrow for a hearing. Let both sides present their case properly, Lydia said flatly. It is a trap. The moment we leave this house, Harlan will take us. The hearing is just a pretense to get us out in the open, Dalton replied, which is why I am bringing deputies. 4 good men I trust completely. We will escort you to town, provide protection during the hearing. If Reeves tries anything, he will have to go through all of us, Cole asked. And if the judge rules in his favor? Dalton met his eyes steadily. Then we figure something else out. But at least this way, it happens legal and above board in front of witnesses. Better than waiting here for him to attack in the middle of the night. That evening, as they prepared for the trip to town, Lydia was nearly paralyzed with fear. Her hands shook as she tried to pack a bag. She kept checking on Rose obsessively, as if the girl might disappear if she looked away for even a moment. Lydia whispered, he will take her. The moment we are in town, the moment there is any chance at all, he will take her from me. Cole took the bag from her trembling hands. Not if I can help it. Lydia, look at me. Please, look at me. She raised her eyes to his. He saw the terror there, the absolute conviction that she was about to lose everything she loved. Cole spoke firmly. "We are going to fight this the right way, with the law on our side, with truth as our weapon, with witnesses who will see exactly what kind of man he is," he continued. "And if that does not work, if the law fails us, then we fight, however we have to. But we give justice a chance first." Lydia said bitterly, "Justice does not work for men like Harlan. It never has. He has money, he has power, he has people who will say whatever he pays them to say." Cole replied quietly, "Then maybe it is time for that to change." They set out before dawn the next morning. Sheriff Dalton and his 4 deputies surrounded the wagon like an honor guard. Cole drove with his rifle across his lap. Lydia sat beside him with Rose held tight against her chest. Both women were scanning the landscape for any sign of ambush. The ride to town took 3 hours. Every minute of it was torture. But they arrived without incident. Dalton escorted them directly to the courthouse. And that is when Cole saw him for the first time. The man who had haunted Lydia's nightmares for 7 long years. Harlan Reeves. He was tall and handsome in a cold way. Silver touched his dark hair at the temples. He wore an expensive suit that spoke of money and power and complete confidence in his ability to take whatever he wanted. His eyes locked onto Lydia the moment she entered the courtroom, and his smile was the smile of a predator who believed his prey had finally been cornered. Cole felt Lydia shrink against him, felt Rose begin to tremble uncontrollably. But he also felt something else rising inside himself, something cold and hard and absolutely certain. This man had hurt the people Cole loved. This man had made them afraid. This man had chased them across hundreds of miles just to drag them back into darkness, and Cole Harding was going to stop him. Whatever it took. Judge Morrison's courtroom was already filling with townspeople when they arrived. Everyone was curious about the spectacle unfolding in their small town. Cole saw Harlan Reeves standing near the front with his lawyer and 8 hard-looking men flanking him. Fletcher was there too, wearing that same cold smile from the night he had invaded Cole's home. The judge rapped his gavel sharply. "This is a court of law, gentlemen. All weapons will be checked at the door. No exceptions whatsoever." Reeves made a show of removing his gun belt, handing it to Fletcher with exaggerated courtesy. His men followed suit reluctantly. Cole and Dalton did the same, though Cole noticed at least 2 of Reeves's men had weapons hidden in their boots. The hearing began with Judge Morrison calling for order. The judge announced, "We are here to address a dispute regarding the custody and legal status of one Lydia Marsh and her daughter Rose. Mr. Reeves, you have filed a complaint. Present your case." Reeves stood with perfect confidence, his voice smooth as silk and twice as slippery. Reeves began, "Your Honor, this is a simple matter. Lydia is my lawfully wedded wife, as evidenced by this marriage certificate signed and witnessed 4 years ago in Santa Fe. Rose is my daughter, as evidenced by these birth records." He produced documents and handed them to the judge. Reeves continued, "3 weeks ago, my wife took our daughter and fled without any cause or provocation. I have been searching for them ever since. When I learned she had been taken in by Mr. Harding here, I came immediately to reclaim my family." The judge examined the papers carefully. To Cole's dismay, they looked completely legitimate. Official seals, proper signatures, everything in perfect order. The judge spoke. "Mr. Reeves, Mrs. Harding claims your marriage was fraudulent, that the officiant was not a legitimate preacher." Reeves smiled that predatory smile. "She would claim that, Your Honor, now that she has found another man to take care of her." His expression became one of practiced sorrow. "But I assure you, our marriage was legal and binding. As for why she left, my wife has suffered from melancholy and delusions since our daughter's birth. I have tried to get her proper help, but she refused all treatment. I believe her current claims are merely products of her troubled mind." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Cole felt Lydia stiffen beside him. The man was painting her as insane and unreliable, making her own testimony worthless before she even spoke. Lydia stood suddenly, her voice ringing with fury. "That is a lie! Judge Morrison, I am not insane. I fled because this man beat me regularly for 7 years. He threatened my daughter with things no mother should ever have to hear." She stepped forward, her voice growing stronger. "Look at my face. These bruises are only a few weeks old. Look at Rose's arms. Those are fingerprints from being grabbed too hard, too often." Judge Morrison gestured for her to approach. He examined the fading bruises on her face, then asked Rose to show her arms. The little girl obeyed reluctantly, clinging to Emma, who had somehow slipped into the courtroom despite being sent to safety. The courtroom went silent at the sight of the marks on that small child's body. The judge spoke sternly. "Mr. Reeves, can you explain these injuries?" Reeves's expression was perfectly crafted, concerned but not guilty. Reeves replied smoothly, "Your Honor, my wife is clumsy. Has been since her illness began. She falls frequently. And Rose, well, children bruise easily during normal play. I would never harm either of them. I love them both with all my heart." Lydia's voice broke with frustration. "He is lying. Every word is a lie." The judge said gently, "Mrs. Harding, I understand you are upset, but we must proceed in an orderly manner." Reeves interrupted. "It is Mrs. Reeves, Your Honor. She may have gone through some ceremony with Mr. Harding, but as she was already married to me, that ceremony is invalid. She is still my wife, legally and morally." Cole stood, his voice hard. "Judge, I have our marriage certificate right here. Legal and properly witnessed just days ago," Reeves replied. "A marriage to a married woman is bigamy, Mr. Harding. If my documents are legitimate, which they are, then your marriage is void from the start." The trap was closing. Cole could see it in Reeves's triumphant smile. The man had planned this perfectly, used the law as a weapon, produced documents a frontier judge had no way to verify, make Lydia seem unstable so her testimony would be dismissed. Dalton spoke up. "Your Honor, I request a continuance. We need time to verify these documents with authorities in Santa Fe to investigate Mr. Reeves's claims properly." The judge asked, "How long would that take, Sheriff?" Dalton admitted, "Could be weeks, maybe months." Reeves stood again with feigned distress. "Your Honor, with respect, I have been separated from my family for nearly a month. Every day my daughter spends with strangers is another day of trauma for her. I request that you return them to my custody immediately while this investigation proceeds." Lydia grabbed Rose, who had begun to cry. "No, you cannot give us to him. Please, you cannot." Judge Morrison looked genuinely troubled. His eyes moved from Reeves's confident face to Lydia's terrified one. From the documents before him to the bruises on mother and daughter, the judge began slowly. "This is complicated. Mr. Reeves, your documents appear legitimate, but Mrs. Harding's injuries are deeply concerning. I am inclined to..." He never finished the sentence. The courthouse doors burst open with a tremendous crash. 3 men rushed in. But they were not Reeves's people. They were townspeople, led by Thomas Baker, who owned the general store. Baker shouted, "Judge, sorry to interrupt, but you need to hear this. All of you need to hear this, right now." He gestured urgently, and an older man stepped forward, nervous but determined to speak his piece. The old man pointed directly at Reeves. "That is him. That is the man who paid me $50 to forge those documents." The courtroom exploded with shocked murmurs. The old man continued, "I am a clerk in Santa Fe. Reeves came to me 6 months ago, said he needed marriage and birth certificates that looked official. I did not ask questions. I needed the money. But when I heard he was using them to claim a woman and child against their will, I could not stay silent. My conscience would not let me." Reeves's face went purple with rage. He lunged toward the old man, but Dalton was faster. The sheriff drew a hidden revolver and leveled it at Reeves's chest. Dalton commanded, "Do not move, not 1 inch, or I will drop you where you stand." Reeves froze. Then slowly, horribly, he smiled. Reeves hissed, "This changes nothing. That clerk could be lying, paid off by someone. It is his word against mine." The judge spoke, his voice hard as stone. "Actually, Mr. Reeves, it is his word combined with your documented history of violence. Yes, I sent my own inquiries to Santa Fe when this case first came to my attention." The judge continued, "Combined with the physical evidence of abuse, combined with Mrs. Harding's testimony, that is more than enough to invalidate your claim entirely." Reeves snarled, "You cannot do this!" The judge replied firmly, "I can, and I am. Your documents are fraudulent. Your marriage to Mrs. Marsh never legally existed. You have no claim to either her or the child. Furthermore, I am ordering your immediate arrest for fraud, for assault, and for attempted kidnapping. Sheriff Dalton, take him into custody." But Reeves was not finished. In a move that shocked everyone, he drew a hidden knife from his boot and grabbed Rose, who had wandered too close during the confusion. The little girl screamed in terror as he pressed the blade against her throat. Reeves shouted, "Nobody moves, or I will cut her throat right here in front of all of you. Lydia, you are coming with me right now, or your daughter dies." Time seemed to stop completely. Lydia stood frozen, her face white with absolute terror. Cole saw Dalton trying desperately to get a clear shot, but unable to risk hitting Rose. And then Emma appeared in the doorway behind Reeves. She must have slipped away during the chaos. She held Cole's spare revolver with both trembling hands, her young face set with determination. Emma shouted, "Let her go! Let Rose go right now!" Reeves laughed cruelly. "Little girl, you do not even know how to use that thing." Emma fired. The shot went wide. She was not aiming at Reeves directly, just trying to startle him into releasing Rose. But the sound was enough. Reeves flinched instinctively. His grip loosened for just 1 second. Rose twisted free and dropped to the floor. Dalton did not hesitate. His shot took Reeves in the shoulder, spinning the man around and sending the knife clattering across the wooden floor. Before Reeves could recover, Cole was on him. 3 years of grief fueling his fists. 3 years of failed protection. 3 years of helplessness against death itself. He was not going to fail again. He was not going to let this monster take what he had sworn to protect. The fight was brutal but quick. When Reeves pulled another hidden blade, Cole caught his wrist and slammed it against the floor until the weapon fell. When Reeves tried to claw at his eyes, Cole headbutted him hard enough to stun him. Dalton and his deputies pulled him apart. Reeves was dragged to his feet, blood streaming from his nose and shoulder. His men, seeing their leader subdued, surrendered without resistance. Dalton snapped iron cuffs onto Reeves's wrists. "Harlan Reeves, you are under arrest, and this time there will not be any witnesses disappearing. Too many people saw exactly what you did today." Reeves stared at Lydia with pure hatred burning in his eyes. "This is not over. I will get out. I have friends, money, power. When I do," the judge interrupted coldly, "when you do, you will be wanted in every territory from here to California. I will make sure of that personally. Take him away, Sheriff. Get him out of my courtroom." As the deputies dragged Reeves away, still threatening and raging, Lydia collapsed to the floor beside Rose. She gathered her daughter into her arms, sobbing with relief. Cole dropped to his knees beside them, pulling them both close. Emma rushed over and threw herself into the embrace. They held each other as the courthouse slowly cleared, as the drama that had gripped the town finally ended. 4 people who had been fighting for their lives, finally allowing themselves to believe they were truly safe at last. Judge Morrison approached them gently. "Mrs. Harding, and yes, you are Mrs. Harding now, legally and properly. You and your daughter are free. Mr. Reeves will stand trial for multiple serious crimes. I will personally ensure he never threatens you again." Lydia looked up at him through her tears. Thank you so much." The judge smiled kindly. "Do not thank me. Thank your husband's courage, and thank your daughter's love." He looked at Emma with admiration. "That was very brave, young lady. Foolish and dangerous, but very brave indeed." Emma just held tighter to Rose, who was crying softly against her shoulder. They had won. Against all odds, they had won. But Cole knew, as they walked out of that courthouse into the bright afternoon sunshine, that the real victory was not just surviving. It was what came next. The weeks following the courthouse confrontation settled over the ranch like gentle rain after a long drought. For the first time since that storm-ravaged night when Lydia and Rose had stumbled into their lives, the weight of fear began to lift completely. Word spread through the territory about Harlan Reeves's arrest, about the fraud he had attempted, about the violence he had shown in open court in front of dozens of witnesses. Judge Morrison had been true to his word, sending notices to law enforcement across multiple territories. Reeves would face justice wherever he went. But freedom from fear, Cole was learning, did not automatically translate to knowing how to live without it. The morning after their return from town, Cole found Lydia already in the kitchen. She was preparing breakfast with hands that moved through the familiar motions automatically. Her bruises had faded to yellow-green shadows that would soon disappear entirely. Cole said gently, "You should be resting after everything we went through." Lydia admitted, "I cannot rest. Every time I close my eyes, I see him grabbing Rose. I see that knife at her throat. I keep thinking about all the ways it could have gone wrong." Cole crossed the kitchen and gently took her trembling hands. "But it did not go wrong. We are all safe. Rose is safe. That is what matters." Lydia looked at him with tears forming in her eyes. "I am so tired of being afraid. I am tired of jumping at shadows, of checking the doors every hour. I want to feel safe. I want Rose to feel safe. But I do not know how to stop being terrified." Without thinking, Cole pulled her into his arms. She stiffened for just a moment, old instincts dying hard. Then she melted against him, her face pressed to his chest. He held her there in the quiet kitchen while the sun rose outside, while the coffee grew cold, while the biscuits waited to be made. Cole spoke softly. "It takes time. After Sarah died, I was afraid too, afraid to hope, afraid to feel, afraid that if I let myself care about anything, I would lose it all over again." He continued, "It took 3 years of living like a ghost before you and Rose showed me I was already losing everything that mattered by being afraid to live." Lydia pulled back to look at him. "How did you stop being afraid?" Cole answered honestly. "I have not stopped completely. I am still afraid every time Emma climbs that oak tree by the creek, still afraid every time storm clouds gather. But I learned that being afraid and being brave are not opposites." He brushed a tear from her cheek with his thumb. "Brave is being afraid and doing what needs doing anyway. Like marrying a stranger to protect her from a monster. Like leaving everything you know to save your daughter. You have been brave every single day since I met you, Lydia. The fear does not change that." She managed a small smile. "We are quite a pair, are we not? Two broken people pretending we know what we are doing." Cole smiled back. "Maybe that is all anyone ever is." Over the following weeks, Cole found himself watching Lydia with new awareness. The way she hummed while working in the garden. The way she sat with Rose for hours, reading stories until the nightmares eased. The way she moved through the house like she truly belonged there. He watched her work with the horses, her hands gentle and sure, her voice a soothing murmur that calmed even the most skittish animals. And slowly, reluctantly, he began to acknowledge what Emma had apparently seen from the very beginning. He was fallen in love with his wife, not the practical arrangement they had agreed to, real love, the kind that made his heart ache when she smiled. The realization terrified him. 3 weeks after the courthouse confrontation, they were working together to bring cattle down from the higher pastures. It was hard work requiring long hours in the saddle. During a break near a small spring, Lydia asked a question that made Cole's heart stop. Lydia said quietly, "Cole, can I ask you something? Are you happy with this arrangement? I mean, truly happy? With me and Rose being here?" Cole looked at her, surprised. "Why would you ask that?" Lydia continued, "Because you have been different lately, distant sometimes, and I wonder if maybe you are regretting what you did. I would understand if you were." Cole set down his canteen and turned to face her fully. Cole said firmly, "Lydia, no, I do not regret anything. Not for a single second." She asked, "Then why do you keep pulling away?" Cole took a deep breath. Then he spoke the truth he had been carrying for weeks. Cole confessed, "Because I am falling in love with you, and I do not know what to do about it." The silence that followed seemed to last forever. Lydia whispered, "You are what?" Cole continued, "I know it was not part of our agreement. I know you married me for protection, for Rose's safety. I am not asking you to feel the same way. I just needed to be honest with you." Lydia laughed softly. A slightly amazed sound. Lydia said, "Cole, do you have any idea how I feel about you? I have been falling in love with you since the moment you walked into that storm to save us." She stepped closer. "I love the way you are with Emma, patient and kind even when you are heartbroken. I love the way you welcomed strangers without hesitation. I love your strength and your integrity." She touched his face gently. "I love you, Cole Harding, not because you saved me, because of who you are." Cole closed the distance between them and kissed her. not the chaste kiss from their wedding. This was real. This was everything. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Lydia pressed her forehead to his. Lydia whispered, "This is real." Cole agreed, "Very real." And standing there in the afternoon sunshine, two broken people finally allowed themselves to believe they could be whole again, together. The second wedding took place under the massive cottonwood trees that grew along the creek on Cole's property. The branches spread wide to create a natural cathedral, and someone had strung lanterns that would glow when evening fell. Nearly the whole town turned out, along with ranchers from miles around. This was a celebration they all wanted to witness, a story of courage and second chances that gave people hope. Cole stood at the simple wooden altar with Emma and Rose on either side of him. Both girls wore new dresses and looked solemn with the importance of their roles. Sheriff Dalton stood beside Cole, looking uncomfortable in his Sunday clothes, but smiling broadly. Dalton murmured, "Never thought I would see the day Cole Harding in love again." Cole admitted quietly, "Neither did I, but here we are." The music began, and everyone turned to watch Lydia walk down the aisle. She was beautiful, not in the fragile decorative way Harlan had demanded, beautiful in a way that spoke of strength and dignity and hard-won peace. Her blue dress flowed around her as she walked. Her head was held high. Her eyes were locked on Cole's. No one led her down the aisle. She walked alone, claiming this choice as entirely her own. When she reached him, Cole took her hands. They turned together to face Reverend Matthews, who had ridden in from Santa Fe to perform the ceremony properly. The vows they spoke were not just traditional words. They were promises that came from the heart. Cole said clearly, "I promise to love you, honor you, stand beside you as an equal partner in all things. I promise to protect you, not because you are weak, but because love means shielding each other from the storms. And I promise to build a life with you that honors both our pasts and embraces our future together." Lydia spoke through happy tears. "I promise to trust you with my heart, even though trust does not come easy to me anymore. I promise to be your partner, your friend, your confidant. I promise to bring all of myself to this marriage, the broken parts and the healing parts, the fears and the hopes, and I promise to love not just you, but the family we are creating, with everything I have." The Reverend smiled warmly. "I now pronounce you husband and wife, properly and completely this time. You may kiss your bride." This kiss was a promise made public, a declaration that they belonged to each other by choice and by love. The celebration that followed was everything a frontier wedding should be. Tables laden with food, music and dancing, laughter and joy under the cottonwood trees. As the sun set and the lanterns glowed to life, Sheriff Dalton approached with news that made the celebration complete. Dalton said, "Just got word from Santa Fe. Harlan Reeves pleaded guilty to all charges. He is going to prison for 15 years minimum. The judge threw the book at him. Fraud, assault, attempted kidnapping, everything." He looked at Lydia with satisfaction. "He is done. He will never hurt you or Rose again." Lydia sagged against Cole in relief. "It is really over, truly over," Dalton confirmed. "You are free to live your life without looking over your shoulder ever again." Later that night, after the guests had departed and the girls were sleeping peacefully, Cole and Lydia stood together under the stars. Lydia said softly, "We did it. We survived. We won." Cole replied, We did more than survive. We built something beautiful out of the ashes. We found each other in the darkness and created light. The years that followed brought the joys and sorrows common to any life. There were harsh winters and dry summers, losses and victories. But through it all, they faced everything together. Emma grew into a strong young woman who eventually married and started her own family. Rose bloomed into someone confident and unafraid, never forgetting the darkness she had escaped, but never letting it define her future. Cole and Lydia grew older together, their love deepening with each passing season. They helped dozens of families through the years, offering shelter and guidance to those who needed it, paying forward the grace they had received on that stormy night. One evening, many years later, they sat on their porch watching grandchildren play in the yard. The ranch looked much as it had that first night, sturdy, enduring, home. One of the grandchildren called out, "Tell us the story, Grandpa, about the storm and Grandma Lydia and Aunt Rose." And Cole did, as he had countless times before, because it was a story worth telling, a story about courage in the face of fear, about choosing love when hate seemed easier, about building families from broken hearts. It was the story of how home is not a place. Home is a choice you make every day to stand beside the people who matter most. Lydia leaned against Cole's shoulder as he spoke. Her hand found his the way it always did. Around them, the New Mexico evening painted the messes in shades of gold and crimson, the same colors that had greeted them all those years ago. And Cole understood, finally, what grace truly looked like. It looked like a door opened in a storm, like a choice made without hesitation, like two broken people deciding to love each other anyway. It looked like home.